Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the Jon Campea podcast here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, Jon Campea. Thank you so much for joining me on this glorious Sunday. Decided to do it live today, 9 a.m., just getting us done in time to do a little bit of NFL football watching. Special hello to all you guys who are indeed watching us live right now. And for those of you watching pre-recorded, we did this show live at 9 a.m. on Sunday. So thank you guys for being here. We got a whole bunch of stuff to go through today. Now, how do you get a question on the Jon Campea podcast? How do you get that topic that's been burning a hole in the back of your brain that you want to get on the Jon Campea podcast? It's simple. You just email me anytime at the Jon Campea podcast at gmail.com. Once again, just email me at the Jon Campea podcast at gmail.com. Send on in your questions. Very important thing here. Keep it to 90 words or less. A lot of people get carried away and they start writing these huge, long chapters of novels to me. And it's like, I can't even read this. I don't even have time to read this. So send them on in. Can't guarantee it'll get on the show, but maybe you'll see your question pop up. Now, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take these 6 questions. If you're curious about what the topics are, take a look in the description of the video. I got a little sneak peek for them down there. And then if I got a few minutes left at the end of the show, I'm going to go over to the live chat board. You're going to see me looking over here a lot because that's where my live chat board is over there. I'm going to go to the live chat board and take some of the topics and questions that you guys who are watching us live send in. Talk amongst yourselves. Keep it civil. Remember, we're all movie fans here together. Let's have some good debate and discussion and everything, but let's keep it fun. Let's keep it friendly. All right, guys, with all that out of the way, let's not waste any time. Let's jump into the first question of the day. And the first question today comes to us from Stifler's dad. And Stifler's dad writes, big fan from the Ukraine. Well, hello, all my viewers in the Ukraine. How you guys doing? My question is, what do you think of the chances of Logan's Oscar campaign? I can't think of a better candidate to represent the comic book genre in the list of Best Picture nominees than Logan. Well, thanks a lot for the question, man, and I don't disagree. Now, everybody knows that I think I've said this a million times already. To me, Logan is still the best film of the year. I just watched Wind River with Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen, and that movie came close. It's a damn good movie. I'm going to do a review. I'm really late on my Wind River review, but I will do a review for that today. I promise I will get my Wind River review done today. But to me, right now, Logan is the best movie of the year. That's just my opinion, and maybe I'll see 5 other films between now and the end of December that I'll think are better. But for now, Logan is my best picture pick. Now, it's curious that about a month or two ago, Fox kind of let it be known that they were ramping up to do an Oscar campaign, an Oscar push for War for the Planet of the Apes. And that's fine. I liked War for the Planet of the Apes. I thought it was very good. I didn't think it was better for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I thought Planet of the Apes Part 2 was better than War for the Planet of the Apes. I also was a little ticked off that War for the Planet of the Apes was one of the worst misleading titles and marketing campaigns in a film ever. Like the whole marketing campaign, even all the posters and billboards were like an army of apes and an army of humans, and you think you're going to see this big epic battle between apes and humans. That's not what the movie's about at all. There is no battle between apes and humans in the movie. That kind of put me off just because, and I wouldn't have minded that if they didn't put that in the marketing campaign. But anyway, that's another topic for another time. Logan is still, to me, Fox's best movie of the year, and the overall best film of the year. And you know what? I think there's an argument to be made that the performance that Patrick Stewart gives as Charles Xavier is, you could make an argument it's on par with Heath Ledger's Joker. Now, Heath Ledger's Joker is way more like never do it for free, and Heath Ledger's Joker is a lot more flamboyant and woo, like really crazy and out there. And being crazy and out there, that kind of puts it front and foremost. But the thing about Patrick Stewart's portrayal of Charles Xavier in Logan was the subtlety of it, the depth of the pain. That one scene, man, seriously, it's one of the best acted scenes of the year in any movie. That one scene where he's laying in bed and he's remembering what he did. And of course, the movie alludes to the fact or suggests that he's the one who killed the X-Men. And he's remembering now, totally accidentally, of course, obviously, but the pain and the grief and the anguish and the hardship and all of that is just, I thought it might have been the finest performance Patrick Stewart's ever given. And it came in a comic book movie. I absolutely believe that right now, today, who knows, maybe 10 other movies will come out that are better between now and December. We're getting into Oscar season here. But as of today, right now, Logan should absolutely be nominated for Best Picture. Patrick Stewart should absolutely be nominated for Best Supporting Actor. And Hugh Jackman should be nominated for Best Actor. Now, whether that stays the same between now and the end of December, I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see, all that kind of stuff, yada, yada, yada. But I honestly, I have never felt better about a comic book movie's chances at a Best Picture nomination than I do about Logan. And I'm going to get real vocal online. I'm going to do my own Oscar campaign for Logan if I have to, because it deserves to be recognized. And you know what? I'm not a comic book movie bandwagoner. I mean, everybody knows my favorite movies are comic book movies aside from Star Wars. But I have never before said, absolutely. Like when I saw Civil War, I thought, yeah, if the Oscars were today, Civil War should be nominated for Best Picture. But by the end of the year, I was, no, okay, I'm cool. Civil War was awesome. It's fantastic. But no, it doesn't deserve to be nominated for Best Picture. Fine. Logan, though, this is the first time that I've really felt like a comic book movie has those elements that even Oscar voters are looking for, that I think it deserves to get a Best Picture nom. So as of right now, I'd say it's got a 30% chance. 30%. I know that's still a low number because we are talking about the Academy, but I think it's got a 30% chance. I'll give Logan a 30% chance of being nominated for Best Picture as of right now. But I want to know what you guys in the chat board think. I'm throwing out a number there, 30%. What percentage of a chance do you think Logan has of actually getting nominated for Best Picture? I'm going to go as high as 30%. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. We're going to move on now to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Anthony Aaron Paquin, who writes, "Hey, John, I wanted to hear your thoughts on this. With Fox owning the film rights to heavy-hitting Marvel villains such as Doctor Doom, Kang the Conqueror, and Galactus, and the next two Avenger films wrapping up the Infinity Stone story arc, could the MCU be in jeopardy without a next big villain?" Well, all right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, look, Fox has a lot of the great Marvel comic book villains. They do, whether you're talking about, this guy right here, the certain guy with a metal mask that for some reason the movies give electrical powers to. Okay, so you got him. You've got, obviously you mentioned Galactus, you mentioned Kang, Magneto. They own an awful lot of the great villains. So, could Marvel be in trouble without the next great villain? Absolutely not. And there's two reasons why. Reason number one why is that some of the names you mentioned, Kang the Conqueror, guys like that, the average movie-going audience has never heard of them. So and remember, the average movie-going audience, the ones who aren't comic book nerds, they represent the vast majority of the movie-going audience, not us. We do not represent the vast majority. We actually represent the minority. And the vast majority has never heard of Kang. They've never heard of him. So it doesn't really make a difference. Actually, a lot of the great villains in X-Men and whatever, the average film-going fan hasn't heard of them. So that's not really a big deal. But here's the main reason why Marvel is not in trouble even without these characters. It's because of this. It doesn't matter how good your character is in a comic book. It all depends on how you use your character in your movie. Marvel could decide to make the guy who was henchman number 4 in Civil War and say he's the new big bad guy. They could say he's the new big bad guy, and he could end up being better than the Joker or Magneto or any other comic book movie villain we've ever had. He could end up, depending on how they write him and what kind of movie they build around him. Just the fact that you put the title Doctor Doom on him does not make him a good character. Heavens, just look at the last Fantastic Four movie. And I didn't hate the most recent Fantastic Four movie. It's bad. Don't get me wrong, it's bad. But I didn't think it's one of the biggest pieces of garbage ever, because I actually thought the first act was pretty good, and then it was, the last two acts got awful. But the Doctor Doom character was bad. It was bad. And just because he was called Doctor Doom did not make it any better. So you can bring in Galactus, you can bring in Kang, you can bring in Doctor Doom if you want, but it doesn't really mean anything. All it is a label. Moving from the comic books into the movie, the name that comes along with them is just a label, because then it all depends on what they decide to do with them and how they decide to use the character. That's the most important thing. Look, Marvel has had some incredible villains in their movies, but quite often they decide not to use them very much. Villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and this is one of my biggest criticisms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and everybody knows I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but one of my biggest criticisms, beside their fake deaths all the time, is the fact that they choose, and I understand their reasoning, but they choose to not hardly use their villains because they want their emphasis to be on the heroes. They really don't care that much about the villains. The villains in Marvel movies are simply plot devices to move the hero along their journey. The movies are all about the heroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I'm going to tell you right now, as much as I love the Marvel films, and I think they're amazing and awesome, and I love the Doctor Doom character, if Kevin Feige suddenly had his hands on Doctor Doom would not be used that much. He would be a villain in one of the movies. He would be there to push the hero story along, but really he wouldn't have that much screen time, and really he wouldn't be used that much, and the heroes would be the focus of attention. So it doesn't matter what they do in the comic books. All matters is how they're used in the movies. And so, no, I don't think Marvel's in trouble at all. They can make anybody the villain, and they'll use him well and use him right, but they'll primarily use the villain to just further on the hero's journey story, because they'll always keep the focus on the heroes because it has worked for them. And I don't see them changing that anytime soon. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Jump into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, we're going to move on to the next item here. And this is an interesting one because of what's been going on in the news lately. But the next topic here comes to us from Matthew Leach. And Matthew Leach writes, if Lucasfilm decides to move Han Solo to December next year, do you think Aquaman will move? Very interesting question. A little bit of a dilemma for this guy here. How good does Jason Momoa look as Aquaman? I mean, come on. So the context is obviously this. Wonder Woman has had a December of 2019 release date set for a while. Star Wars and Lucasfilm just announced that they're moving Star Wars Episode 9 to that same month, December 2019. Putting Wonder Woman in a position that I think most of us agree Wonder Woman's got to move. Wonder Woman cannot open 1 week before Star Wars Episode 9. It's going to get hammered if it does. It'll have a great opening weekend, and then its weekend number 2, it's going to get hammered. So they got to move it, absolutely. Any movie franchise would have to. I don't care if it's Avengers Infinity War Part 4. If that movie's there, Avengers has got to move. You cannot go head-to-head in your second week with a Star Wars movie, particularly one of the main episodic Star Wars movies, Star Wars Episode 9. So Wonder Woman's got to move. I think most of us agree with that. The only debate now is where should Wonder Woman move? So, what happens, though, if the same thing happens with Han Solo? Because, look, there's a lot of upheaval going on with Han Solo. We're all very familiar. Lord Miller got booted out. 80% of the movie, Ron Howard came in to kind of redo everything. As of right now, the release date is still May. But, I mean, I wouldn't fall over from shock if we heard an announcement come out of Disney tomorrow saying, hey, we need to give Ron Howard more time, so we're going to move Han Solo to December. Well, then, if that happens, what the hell does Aquaman do? Because now Aquaman is kind of in the same situation as Wonder Woman, going head-to-head with the Star Wars film. Here's the interesting thing, though. I really doubt Han Solo would move to December. I mean, Han Solo may move, but I highly doubt it would move to December. Look at this. Here's the release schedule right now for December of 2013. First of all, you got an animated Spider-Man movie coming out. I mean, so, no, now that's not going to do $1 billion, not at all, but still, it's an animated Spider-Man movie. Then we've got that Peter Jackson written movie, Mortal Engines, a sci-fi movie about cities on wheels that drive around and devour other cities. I mean, that's going to be big. We got Aquaman. And look what's opening on the exact same day as Aquaman. Bumblebee is opening on the exact same day. The Transformers spin-off movie Bumblebee and Aquaman right now are scheduled to go head-to-head. That can't last. You cannot have those two movies opening on the same day. Then we got Mary Poppins Returns. That's going to be huge for family viewing. That opens up on Christmas Day. We got a big Warner Brothers event film opening up on that time period too. December is already massively packed. So I don't know that Lucasfilm would look at that and go, yeah, let's now drop Han Solo in there. And here's the big thing. Han Solo is not a Star Wars episodic movie. There is a lot more power and a lot more intimidation with Star Wars episode whatever than Han Solo, a Star Wars story. There's a lot more intimidation with the Star Wars episodic film. I don't think Han Solo is going to hit $1 billion. I mean, it's going to make a ton of money. It's going to make an absolute ass ton of money, sure. But I don't think it's going to join the $1 billion club. So I don't think Lucasfilm is going to want to drop a Han Solo movie into that viper's nest. Like, as it stands, Aquaman or Bumblebee's already got to move. So let's say, for an argument's sake, that Han Solo does move to December. What does Aquaman do? Aquaman's got to move, but not just because of Han Solo. It's just because it's too crowded. It's not Han Solo by itself. Because if there was no other movies in December and Han Solo moved to December, I don't think you move if you're Aquaman. Try to be 2 weeks separated. Even if you're in the same month, try to be 2 weeks separated. But honestly, I think if there was no other movies in December and Lucasfilm moves Han Solo there, if I'm Warner Brothers execs, I don't move Aquaman. I don't move him. I think Han Solo is going to make a lot of money, but it's not going to be an all-encompassing box office black hole like Star Wars Episode 9 is going to be. But the fact of the matter is, December isn't empty. There's other big hitter movies in there. And if it gets even more crowded with another big hitting movie like Star Wars Han Solo, I think if you're Warner Brothers, you got to consider, it might be good for business to move it. And let these other guys cannibalize themselves and be idiots if they want to, but we're going to be the smart ones and we're going to move. So it's hard to say. But again, I think the point is moot. Because even if Lucasfilm moves Han Solo, because of this schedule, I do not think they move Han Solo to December. That's just too much. And that Bohemian Rhapsody movie's been on the docket for an awful long time. That's going to do some damage. Mary Poppins is going to do some damage. Who knows what that other Warner Brothers film is? That might do some damage. Again, I just don't see Lucasfilm moving them to December. They may move it, but if they do, I can't see the wisdom in moving it to a December date. All right, guys, that'll do it for that. Let's move on now to the next question. And the next question, time for my shameless daily Patreon plug, comes to us from one of my Patreon supporters. You know, my Patreon supporters are the ones who make this channel possible, who make daily shows like this and 70 to 100 videos a month possible. They're the financial backing for this. But also, our Patreon supporters get access to audio-only versions of the podcast, also audio-only versions of Star Wars Talk Tuesday. That's a Patreon supporter exclusive. We do Patreon supporter exclusive Q&A podcasts that are only available to our patrons, Patreon only videos, Patreon only 101 chats and exchanges and stuff like that. I give priority to my Patreon members when they send in questions for the Jon Campea podcast, because you notice I have a Patreon supporter question or two every single day. A lot of benefits. Do me a favor, check out patreon.com/Jon Campea. I got all the information there. Give it a quick look over and see if you want to become one of my Patreon supporters. If you do, awesome. And if you don't, that's totally fine too. I'm just glad you're here watching the videos with us. Okay, with the daily shameless plug out of the way, let's move on to my Patreon supporters question. And this comes from Patreon supporter Raymundo, who writes, the recent news, I love UFC questions. The recent news about Jon Bones Jones popping for steroids, getting his title stripped, and facing a potential 4-year suspension sounds like a great and tragic biopic to me. That being said, what do you think would make the better film? A Jon Bones Jones fall from grace, or Conor McGregor's rise to power? Thanks a lot. And one of my other great loves is UFC, mixed martial arts, and you know, I'm very active and I'm also a big fan of MMA. So the story, for those of you who don't know, Jon Bones Jones is like simply one of the most naturally gifted combat fighters the world has ever seen. He's just remarkable. Unfortunately, he's also a mess of a human being. He's not a very good person. He constantly gets himself in trouble. I think this is the second or third time they've had to strip a title from him. He's been popped for steroids before. He's been popped for cocaine. He was hit and run of a pregnant woman. He's just got a terrible attitude, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So he recently came back from a suspension, took back his light heavyweight title, and then quickly they stripped it from him again because they caught him doping again. So, I mean, that's a terrible story. You know, I've met Jon Jones a couple of times here. I'm actually going to bring her picture. Some of you might have seen this before. Me and my wife, actually, that's my wife, Ann. We actually ran into Jon Jones in Vegas. Ann and I go to Vegas a bunch, and got to hang out with him for an afternoon. He was very nice, very accommodating, hung out with him for a bit. And, but it's unfortunate that, you find out that this guy that you meet and he seemed really nice in person ends up being just a mess underneath the surface. But the question is, what would make the better film? The Jon Jones movie or a Conor McGregor movie? I'm going to say, without question, the Conor McGregor movie. Here's why. Not only is Conor McGregor a much more colorful individual, I love Conor. I'm not going to lie. I'm one of these guys. People love or hate Conor McGregor. I love the guy. I think he's ravagingly entertaining. He's got the mic skills of a WWE wrestler. Actually, he's better. He's better than any WWE wrestler when it comes to pure mic skills. And he backs it up. Now, let me zone out you guys for a bit. Let me just talk in UFC terms for a second here. I didn't believe in Conor McGregor for a long time. I was always very entertained for him. But when he was going into his title fight against Jose Aldo, I said, Jose's going to smash him. I mean, I'm going to be cheering for Conor, but Jose's going to smash him. And what did he do? He knocked out Jose Aldo, the guy they said was the most unbeatable UFC fighter in the world at the moment. He knocked him out in 17 seconds. Then he went up a weight class to fight for the lightweight title against Eddie Alvarez. And I said, look, I'm going to be cheering for Conor, but Eddie Alvarez is going to smother him. Eddie Alvarez is going to take out Conor McGregor, no problem. Conor McGregor proved us wrong again, and he dominated Eddie Alvarez. So I'm big on his bandwagon. So he's a much more colorful individual. He's much more entertaining. He's gotten more success. He's the first UFC fighter to hold 2 belts at the same time. But here's the biggest reason. People like to be able to cheer for the subject of their biopics. People like to have kind of a bit of a feel-good ending. Even with Walk the Line, with all the misery in the Johnny Cash story, there are uplifting moments and things like that. And generally speaking, people like to kind of root for the subject matter of their biopics. I can't root for a Jon Jones. I'm not going to watch his movie hoping good things happen for him. And we all know just bad things happen because he screws up so much. But with a Conor McGregor movie, you can. You can look for he was homeless at one point, all this kind of stuff, rags to riches story. And I just think he makes for the better story. I just think he makes for the better movie and the better biopic. And I think more average film audiences would gravitate towards a story about him than they would about the constant screw up Jon Jones. Because remember, tragedy stories can be great, but only when they're tragedies that happen to somebody. Jon Jones's tragedies are self-inflicted. He did them all to himself. So it's really difficult to feel sympathetic towards him. Like if somebody was in a motorcycle accident and it ruined their career, we can at least feel then sympathy for it. This guy, he did it all to himself. So it's hard to even feel sympathy at that point. But, there you go. I'm sure a lot of different people have different opinions. Which would you rather see? Would you rather see, the unfulfilled potential tragedy movie of a Jon Jones? Would you rather see kind of a rags to riches story in a Conor McGregor? Different people have different answers. Jump into the comment section and leave me your thoughts. All right, we move on now to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Christian Corbett, who writes, fellow Hamiltonian here. For those of you who don't know, I am from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Steel City, Hammertown, that's my home. Anyway, I heard you saying in a podcast recently that 10 years from now, Christopher Nolan will be in the conversation as one of the greatest. I didn't say he would be. I said, let's talk in 10 years. There's a very strong possibility he could be. But anyway, my question is, if tragically Christopher Nolan passed away tomorrow, would he still not be considered one of the greatest directors? And in the conversation with Spielberg, Scorsese, etc., just because he doesn't have another 10 years of work under his belt? Thanks a lot for the question, Christian. And I got a lot of questions over the years and to this day about Christopher Nolan, what's his place. And here's the reality. The reality is a lot of us as film fans, and I do this too, we all do this. It's not just film fans, it's also sports fans, music fans, whatever. We're always about what's happening right now. And whatever's happening right now is the greatest of all time. Right now, Christopher Nolan is one of the best film directors. But when we start talking about, and I made a comment the other day that, look, does he today deserve to be on that Mount Rushmore of directors? No, absolutely not. He doesn't. He's made some great movies. I would argue he has yet to make a bad movie. Now, I didn't love Interstellar. And there was another movie of his I didn't really love. But even my least favorite movies of Christopher Nolan are still okay or pretty good. I mean, his worst Batman film was The Dark Knight Rises. And I didn't think it was great, but I still thought it was good. And it's still a good movie. And that's the worst you can say about a Christopher Nolan film, is that, oh, it's just not great. That's the worst you can say about a Christopher Nolan film. But when you start talking about, Mount Rushmore, if you want to start talking about a guy and getting him compared to somebody like a Steven Spielberg, let's look at the resumes, okay? Let's look at the resumes. Christopher Nolan, I think he has one film that was nominated for Best Picture so far. One film that he's directed, might be two. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat board. It might be two, but I believe he has one film that was nominated for Best Picture that he directed. I don't think he was nominated. Let me pull this up. Let me pull this up quick. I don't think Christopher Nolan has ever been nominated. Awards. I don't think he's ever been nominated for the Academy Award for Best Director. I'm actually pretty sure he hasn't. I'll get the final answer right now. He was nominated. No, he's never been nominated for Best Director. Now, maybe that's a mistake that he wasn't nominated for Best Director, and that's fine, but he's got no Best Directing nominations. I think he's got one film of his that he's directed that was actually nominated for Best Picture. You can make an argument maybe Dark Knight should have been nominated, and that would have made two, but he wasn't, so there you go. Now compare that to a resume of a Steven Spielberg. You know how many films Steven Spielberg has directed that went on to get nominated for Best Picture? Not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, not seven, not eight, but 9. At least 9. Might even be 10, but at least 9. I know of at least 9 off the top of my head. Steven Spielberg directed films go on to be considered one of the best films of the year and get nominated for Best Picture. You know how many times Steven Spielberg's been nominated for Best Director? Not once, not twice, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, 7 times he's been nominated for Best Director. There's just no comparison of the resumes. Steven Spielberg has made more bad movies than Christopher Nolan. The Terminal. Anyway, I know there are those of you out there who like The Terminal, and that's great. All films subjective. I happen to think it's a bad movie, but whatever. But really, if you're going to try to compare Christopher Nolan to like the all-time greats, like a Steven Spielberg, that's why I say give Christopher Nolan 10 more years. Because Christopher Nolan's going to get more Oscar nominations. Christopher Nolan's going to make some more great movies. Christopher Nolan's going to make more all-time memorable movies. Give him 10 more years. It's unfair to try to compare Christopher Nolan to a Steven Spielberg right now. He's still really young and really early in his career. Give him 10 more years. That's why I say that. So yes, unfortunately, if Christopher Nolan either passed away tomorrow or decided to retire from directing tomorrow, that pretty much disqualifies him from ever being considered one of the greatest because he just doesn't have the resume to justify calling him that. So now, he might be your favorite director in the world, and that's awesome. But I'm just saying, if you want to try to step back and be a little bit objective, and all film is subjective, but you just got to acknowledge he does not have the repertoire. He doesn't have the filmography. He doesn't have the resume that some of those other guys on that Mount Rushmore do. They don't compare yet. Give him 10 years, and it might be a different discussion, but he doesn't have it yet. All right, we move on now to the final question of the day before I go over and take a couple from you guys in the live chat board. And the final question today comes to us from Henri Mertens, who writes, my question is about George Lucas. With Lucas having no say to what happens in his own characters, would it be out of line for him to publicly criticize the ending of Episode 9 if he dislikes it? Also, I think it's a little sad that the series won't end based on his own creativity and imagination. Do you feel the same? Thanks. Look, let me preface everything I'm going to say here about this. I worship, everybody knows this, I worship at the altar of George Lucas. I love George Lucas. And a lot of people just think, when they think George Lucas, they just think Star Wars. You're forgetting the Indiana Jones films. You're forgetting, but the most importantly, they forget what he's done to revolutionize the film industry, also in terms of technology. Skywalker sound, Dolby, Industrial Light and Magic, still the best visual effects company in the world. All that kind of stuff. What George Lucas has done for the film, the revolution of digital filmmaking. Like, everybody shoots digitally now, practically. You know why? Because George Lucas pushed that forward. George Lucas is such a revolutionary figure, even in a lot of ways that have nothing to do with Star Wars. And for that reason, and many others, I worship at the altar of George Lucas. I totally do. But, that being said, George Lucas has no business being involved with Star Wars anymore. Other than showing up to the premieres, being the figurehead godfather, doing some Queen Elizabeth waves, that's all well and good. But he has no business. Not because I didn't like the prequels, but because he sold Star Wars. It's not like Star Wars got stolen from him and, oh, isn't it a shame now he doesn't get to say? No, he sold it for billions of dollars. I think it was like $4 billion, plus he gets points on the movies moving forward. So he's still making money. Like, he got a $4 million check, plus he still makes money. On every new Star Wars property that comes out, George Lucas makes money. He's still making money. Is it out of bounds? So there's two parts to your question here. Number one, is it out of bounds? Would it be out of bounds for him to criticize? Yes. Yes, it is out of bounds. But John, don't you want him to be honest? Hey, look, if he was just another average guy, if he was just like, let's even say he's George Lucas and somebody asks him about a Star Trek movie. If he wants to be honest and criticize a Star Trek movie, fine, that's totally cool. But you just took a check for $4 billion for the Star Wars property. It's pretty much expected, and it's bad form for you now to go out and try to damage that property by criticizing it. You took a check for $4 billion from those people. If you got nothing nice to say, just keep your mouth shut. Don't lie. Absolutely don't lie. Just don't say a word then. Simply don't say a word. That's what George Lucas should be doing. But even on top of that, should he have some say? No, absolutely not. Not just because he sold it, but because, George Lucas lost a step when it came to directing and filmmaking. And look, I'll say this all the time. Everybody knows how much I hate the prequels, but even though I hate the prequels, if you wrote out a 2-page treatment, a 2-page synopsis, an outline of Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith, like a 2-page outline for each, I would look at those and say, hey, this is the makings for a good movie. This 2-page story outline is pretty good. George just then should have let somebody else write it, like write the script based on his 2-page treatment, and should have let somebody else direct it. That's what he should have done. So, but he didn't. He wrote it himself. I still think George Lucas is the best at coming up with great stories, like a 2-page outline. Now get somebody else to write the script around that outline. I think that could have worked, but, no. I mean, he lost a step in those other things. Plus, he sold the damn company. He made billions. He continues to make tens of millions. So, no, he's not in a position that he should be criticizing anything about Star Wars, because to me, that's a conflict of interest. Again, I don't think he should lie about anything. Just keep it quiet. Just keep it quiet. All right, guys. I said I would take a couple of your questions live now, and I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to look over to the chat board here and see what people are saying. So just jump on the chat board, fire in a question, and I'll see if I can get to one or two of them, because I'm starting to run out of a little bit of time now. Let's see. Well, I mean, Aiden, what's the name here? Rio Dran writes, Lucas ruined Star Wars. I don't think so. I like, seriously, the prequels being bad, those are isolated. They don't touch the brilliance and everything of the original trilogy that George Lucas brought. George Lucas did not ruin Star Wars. He did not ruin the franchise. He made a couple of bad movies, yes, but that in no way has affected the legacy of the overall Star Wars story. The proof being is that everybody still loves Star Wars, despite the prequel. So no, I don't think at all that he ruined it. Okay, Stephanie Hayner is writing, C-3PO in Han Solo. I don't know. Star Wars seems to be like, even in Rogue One, they like to do a lot of quick little cameos. I would rather not see don't get me wrong, I love Anthony Daniels as C-3PO. I love the character, absolutely, but let's isolate a little bit. Let's not shrink the universe even more by having another coincidental stumble across each other kind of scene. I would rather they didn't. Who knows? Maybe they'll come up with a really fun, creative way to do it, but I would prefer that they didn't. Let's see. Daniel Minster. John, quick question. Are you ever going to make it back to the East Coast like when you came with the AMC OGs? Oh yeah, I'll get back to the East Coast. I'm actually thinking about coming out to Toronto in October. I'm thinking about coming back to Toronto in October. And I definitely will be coming around Christmas time because that's where my family is. So I like to go home and visit family around Christmas. So maybe when I'm out there, I'll arrange like a fan meet and greet in Toronto. I'll let everybody know well in advance. And if 2 or 3 of you want to come and hang out at a Starbucks and talk some movies for an hour, maybe we can do it. All right. Let's see. What else? Oh, yeah. Daniel Benvenez writes, I get a lot of crap for this. Rick and Morty. Guys, listen. I tried Rick and Morty. I never watched it, and then I heard everybody talk about how great Rick and Morty is, how wonderful Rick and Morty is. And I watched it. It's okay. I thought it was okay. It's not that clever. I think Archer is way funnier. And more entertaining. Archer I think is my favorite animated show on TV right now. I love Family Guy. I love all that other stuff. And I didn't dislike Rick and Morty. And I know everybody gets mad at me when I say that because you're supposed to say you love Rick and Morty. I wish I could. And I kept watching it thinking people are going to be mad at me if I say I don't like Rick and Morty. So I'll just keep watching and maybe I'll start liking it. Well, and I do like it. I do. I just didn't think it was all that great. I'll pop it on and watch it. Sure. I enjoy it. It's nice. But I didn't find it that funny. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just don't get and everybody gets all mad at me because I don't like Rick and Morty. Let's see. Anagrog and oh man, I can't pronounce your name. I'm sorry, dude. Hey, John. I watch your videos daily. Thank you so much. I wanted to know your thoughts on the future of Marvel after Avengers 4. Feige said that after the end of Phase 3, it would be a new thing. Hope you get 100,000 subscribers soon. Thanks a lot for the question, man. But Kevin Feige said that after Phase 1, and Kevin Feige said that after Phase 2, and now he's saying it after Phase 3. And yes, there are going to be changes, and there's going to be... everything changes from movie to movie. Absolutely. But I don't think after Avengers 4, they're killing off... I mean, they may kill off 1 or 2 of them, but they're not going to kill off Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk. They're all dead now, and now meet Feister Man. I don't think it's going to be that kind of a wholesale change. But I'm sure it will change. Everything changes. I mean, the world of the MCU changed after the events of Age of Ultron. We did see that happen, and we'll see a bunch of changes, but I don't think it'll be like all-encompassing, the biggest changes in the world to ever happen sort of thing. All right, guys, that'll do it for me for today's installment of the Jon Campea podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Listen, don't forget, if you're here, take a second, click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to my YouTube channel. Make sure you click the thumbs up button, like this video, comment on this video, share it around if you like, and once again, consider becoming one of my Patreon supporters. And hey, guys, be nice to each other, keep commenting, keep talking with each other. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for joining me, and until next time, bye-bye.